Hi, and welcome to Behind Sports. My name is Gregory Scott Ryan, and thanks for joining us today. Today's guest is Natalie Mikolich of NPM PR, located in South Florida. Natalie, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's really great to be on the opposite side every once in a while.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear that. First, I'd love to get to know you a little bit. If you could just give us a little bit of background on you and how you got into the industry.
Definitely. Well, thanks again for having me on. Like I said, normally I'm always on the opposite side of this and pitching people and having other people come on. So it's nice to talk to you a little bit about sports publicity.
Sure.
But I got started in this industry actually after playing competitive tennis in the juniors and then in college at the University of Florida and then transferring to the University of Miami, where I decided to get into communications and look at my career beyond playing tennis and what I was going to do. And I knew that I wanted to stay in sports and in the sports marketing and media industry. And I was really fortunate growing up playing in high school, being friends with Andy Roddick and Marty Fish,
Nice.
who live in this area and got some really good stories and photos from back in the day for another time.
I'll hit you up on those stories in a little bit.
Yeah, for another time. Um, I was really lucky that actually Andy Roddick's agent, Ken Meyerson, had his office with SFX Tennis at the time, just down the road from the University of Miami in Coconut Grove. And when I started looking around at the agencies that represented different players, obviously tennis being my first passion and first love, I saw that Ken was right there, and I just emailed and called him and basically knocked on the door until he gave me an opportunity when I was in college to start interning with him for the SFX tennis division.
Nice.
Yeah, so from there, I got some opportunities to do some different things, and one of them was actually the PR campaign for Andy Roddick's foundation that was in South Florida at the time in 2005, and up until that point, it was their biggest year, grossing over $1 million in one weekend, and we had Lionel Richie out at the Hard Rock and really got the opportunity to just write press releases and start pitching the tennis media and then grew from there.
Very nice. Very nice. So it seems like one of the key things that actually propelled you into the industry was one, perseverance, just going and knocking on the door and really just getting down and into the grind and start doing the work.
Yeah, definitely. The sports and entertainment industries are just so competitive,
Right.
and I don't really think that if you're looking to get in that industry, the opportunities are not going to find you. You have to find them.
Sure.
And sometimes even when there's not an opening or not a position available, you just have to be persistent. And like I said, Ken definitely didn't take my first phone call, second phone call, might have returned an email, but eventually a few months later, I got an opportunity to go in and meet with him in the office. And after that, it worked out well because he loved tennis players.
Well, that's good. It sounds like you made yourself valuable, and I think that's
Yes,
really important.
I tried, yeah. And actually, I think that's one of the things that you might have talked about recently with another guest on your show, part of the Manhattan Sports Business Academy,
Yes.
Ben Sterner. And I was also fortunate enough to be a part of that program this summer. And that was one of the big things that we talked about with the group of students who were getting opportunities to intern at some of the best companies, agencies, league in the sports industry.
Right.
And, making yourself valuable once you have an opportunity, because it's just so competitive these
Right.
days. And so many people are willing to get in and, not get paid anything and, just basically slave themselves. And everyone has to start somewhere, but definitely adding value is a good thing.
Very good. Very good. So let's kind of dive into PR. I know we're going to
Yes.
talk a lot about tennis today because that's one of your focuses. So
Yep.
so let's start there actually. I'd like to talk about any kind of challenges you have with PR, that industry, specifically in the tennis world.
Yeah. So challenges, I think, in the tennis industry compared to the overall whole of the sports industry is
Right.
that tennis, even though worldwide is one of the most popular sports, it's the first or second most popular sport worldwide. But in the US, it's not. You're competing with football, and you're competing with baseball, and you're competing with basketball, and you're also competing with college sports. And those are just so much more prevalent and dominant. And so when you're working in tennis and you're trying to get coverage and exposure for it, with the sports outlets and the sports media, you're constantly competing with those.
Sure.
And again, I like to think sometimes that PR also stands for persistency equals results and patience equals results, because you just have to, keep pitching and throwing story angles and ideas out there if you have something good to work with in order to be included in the mix of sports coverage. So I would say that that's one of the challenges, whether it's working with a company like I've been fortunate enough to work with Prince Tennis the past 3 out of 4 years for their summer campaign,
Great.
or working with professional athletes as well. You could be working with some of the top professional tennis players in the world, and especially if they're not American, it's really difficult to get them included in the mix of some of the top sports media coverage when
Sure.
you're dealing with LeBron James and everyone else out there.
Well, the other thing I think when you're talking about some of the big four, everybody refers to is football, the NFL, baseball, NBA, and NHL. They all have very set seasons too in their leagues. Where in the sense that tennis is a little bit different because, in most cases it's a single athlete sport, and then there's tournaments.
Yeah, and tennis is a little bit different in that sense too, because when you're working with tennis players or even golfers, or last year I had the opportunity to work with an Olympic boxer. It's an individual sport.
Right.
And again, when you have the other big four sports, they're teams. And they also have entire PR communication departments dedicated to those teams. And things are just done a little bit differently when you have a team as opposed to an individual. But again, you're still always in the mix of competing with everyone else and what's going on. Like right now, it's probably not a good week to pitch some stuff for tennis with everything else going on.
Yeah, true. There might be a little bit of overshadowing going on.
Right. Tennis what?
So you work with a lot of professional tennis players. Can you kind of walk through some of the services that you're actually offering to them and what you're doing, life in a day?
So in the past, I've had the opportunity after interning with SFX and then that becoming Blue Entertainment Sports Television prior to Lagardère Unlimited, the opportunity to work with some amazing top players today. I'd have to say definitely Bob and Mike Bryan, greatest doubles team of all time, are some of my favorite players, guys, and athletes I've had the opportunity to work with, along with Victoria Azarenka and Caroline Wozniacki, who have both been number one in the world at times, and even a little bit John Isner on his way up. But no matter which athlete it is, a lot of what I did was, again, tennis is not as popular as basketball, baseball, and football, and trying to find them opportunities to be included in the top mainstream media coverage and lifestyle coverage. And sorry, 1 second, I have window pop up here on the screen. And looking for opportunities for them to be included in there, whether it's in Men's Fitness Magazine or Men's Health, or trying to get Caroline Wozniacki in Shape Magazine, and sort of usually tying it into around big events like the US Open or Sony Ericsson going on in Miami. Those are really opportune times. And it's also been really important and valuable to their agents, the publicity exposure, because it also increases their marketing opportunity and awareness and their profile. So, it can be anything from pitching the story to then securing the interview and then working in the middle to arrange it with both sides, with the media and trying to meet their demands and what they're looking to cover, but also trying to fit it accordingly into the schedule of the athletes who are training and traveling and playing in events around the world. And then once you do set it up, making sure everything goes right, whether you're on site to attend it or not, being that middle person, the buffer again. And even with more often the women than the men, it comes down to their apparel and making sure that everything in the shoot is, from their sponsor's latest collection and things are included. So it looks probably on the outside like, oh, it's not that difficult to get an interview set up and get it done. But when you go from the start to finish process, it's a lot of details.
Yeah, no, I don't think it looks easy at all. I think people who do what you do need to have, like you said earlier, just a lot of patience and perseverance in doing something, because there's just so many people looking for coverage as well. And you're competing with not just other tennis players, but you're competing with other sports.
yeah, again, other sports, other athletes, any sport, or even celebrities out there too. I know they get tied into the sports media coverage sometimes too, but there are just so many people out there who are pitching, from small firms, big firms, agencies, and it's just really a matter of getting the attention of the media and sort of breaking through that. And I think once you get through that and you start developing some relationships with different media, it's easier to go back the next time, and they'll read your emails faster and get back to you sooner, because they'll know that you'll come at them with a good suggestion or athlete or story.
Very cool.
So over time, I've been lucky to develop that.
Good. That's awesome. Good deal. So let's talk a little bit about some of the specific projects that you're working on. I know you mentioned Prince Tennis. They just recently opened up their first retail location in Wimbledon Village.
Yes. It's a really exciting, great time for Prince Tennis. They've been through a really rough patch over the past few years or so, especially last summer. So this year is definitely a big comeback year and comeback story for them, and just got things started off this summer at Wimbledon with the opening of their retail location in Wimbledon Village. And we had a really great couple of nights of a private media event on Saturday night before Wimbledon started. And then Sunday we had Bob and Mike Bryan and Marion Bartoli out on the public grand opening. For the media grand opening, we were lucky enough to have John Isner make an appearance along with Nick Bollettieri. So that really kind of catapulted them in the right direction this summer. And we got a lot of really great response from the media and coverage. And now we're looking towards the U.S. Open. Right. Can't believe how soon it is.
I know. It's just around the corner.
And some more exciting announcements for them, looking towards the U.S. Open with new product launches and new technology, and just, again, kind of their comeback story after a really couple of difficult years. It's great to have them out there.
Very good, very good. You also, kind of steering away from tennis for just a second, you're also working with an Olympian, someone who's set quite a bar.
Yeah, I was working with Marlen Esparza. She was the first female boxer in U.S. history to qualify for the Summer Olympics at London, which was also the first time that they had women's boxing as a sport at the Summer Olympics. So it was a very exciting time, and it was the first opportunity to kind of see a different side of the sports world and be a part of the Olympic movement. And it was so incredible to be a part of that, and working with her, and the publicity exposure and the marketing exposure, and also get to go to the Olympics and feel what it's like to be there, in addition to Grand Slams like the U.S. Open and Wimbledon. So awesome. Yes, she was also ended up being the first one to medal in U.S. like the first in U.S. history to medal at the Olympics in women's boxing. So she'll make her mark in the history books.
Absolutely. I think she already has. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
She won't soon be forgotten. That's for sure. Cool. Well, great. That's really awesome to hear about all the stuff that you're doing and kind of the intricacies of your job.
Thanks.
Would love to hear some of the more one of the most unique or outlandish moments that you've had in your career. This is kind of the section where I just fire off a couple questions to you.
That's okay. I like these questions. I like this because I thought about this a little bit when you mentioned you might want to talk about this. And so I'll have to say, and hopefully I can convey this story without revealing who it is.
Okay.
But for one of the most outlandish experiences I've had was one of the athletes that I worked with was coming off of winning a really big event. And we had committed to a major national U.S. publication to do an in-depth profile on this athlete. And they came to the event. They wanted to continue to go to the athlete's hometown and see the celebratory festivities that took place.
Sure.
However, this athlete was just drained, just didn't want to do anything else after coming off the big win at their event. And when this athlete got back home and the reporter was in town following them everywhere, there was one of the last 2 days of the interview process of the reporter following the athlete. The reporter was at the athlete's house, and the athlete was so tired, was in the other room screaming profanities on the phone to her coach about how tired, I gave it up a little bit, how tired from the training and the interviewing and just didn't want to do any more. And I had the reporter standing in the living room calling me, telling me that this was going on. And then following this happening, I had to continue to talk with the reporter who was still in the athlete's hometown, following them for another day, and talk through the reporter about this is not going to affect the story in a negative way, and the profile that they were writing on this athlete and the turnout. And it was just quite a unique
it sounds like it. Sounds like a little bit of damage control in there too.
What's that?
I said it sounds like a little bit of damage control in there too.
It was. Yeah. And then the athlete on the other side, right away didn't tell me that it had happened,
right,
and just pretended like nothing had happened and that I didn't know about this. So kind of having to talk through them and get it out of them to reconcile this situation. But it was very, I would say, a little bit awkward being in the middle, because being in the middle, you want the best for the athlete that you work with, but you also want the story to come out good. And also the relationships that you have with the media are really important. So it gets a little tricky being in the middle, maneuvering through that. But fortunately, when the story did come out, that there was nothing really damaging in there and about this incident taking place.
Good. So job well done then.
Yeah, I tried my best.
Good deal.
There have been some others, but I would say that was one of the most outlandish.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. And we kind of touched on this next one a little bit earlier, because I think people can take a lot from your experiences when you first started your career. But specifically, what would you tell someone who is trying to break into the sports industry? And I'm sure you've spoken a lot about this with working with the Manhattan Academy. So again, it was so great to be a part of the Manhattan Sports Business Academy with Ben Sterner and David Ostreicher, along with Jonathan Blue, as part of founding it. And there were a lot of speakers this summer and a lot of important executives that talked to the students. And I would say a lot of what was conveyed to them is that you have to separate yourself from the clutter. And after you sort of, like I said earlier, find opportunities, they're not going to come find you. You have to find the opportunities, you have to pursue them, and then you have to, like you mentioned, show value and add value and separate yourself from the clutter. And really, sometimes just getting your foot in the door, even these days, I think is not enough anymore, which sounds really tough and really challenging, but you just have to really make the most of the opportunities that you're given. And I think, too, that people looking to break into sports have to be realistic about it and know that other people are looking to break in as well, and that they'll be willing to go the extra mile, and you've got to be willing to do that. And something that I mentioned to the interns that I've worked with too is that sports and entertainment is very glamorous to be in at times, but also there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. Right.
And starting off in that industry, you're not going to start off in a high-paying salary position. If you want to break in, you're just not, unless you know someone.
And I think, well, even then it's tough. I mean, because I think a lot of people do have that in their minds, right? They see all the glitz and glamour, and they're like, well, hey, when I get in there, this is what it's going to be like. And that's just not the case, especially if you're trying to really get into the industry. You got to start on the ground.
You have to pay. I really believe that everyone has to pay their dues to a certain extent.
Right.
And there are definitely great perks that come along with it when you intern or you're starting off in a company. I mean, you get to go to some of the best sporting events in the world and participate in things that other people would love and kill to be a part of.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you're looking to make as much as you possibly can in the first 2 years out of school, it's not really a realistic perspective, I think, to have. So that's, I think, a couple of things.
Good deal. Well, hey, I really appreciate that. That's good. That's good advice, good insight, and I think people can learn a lot if they kind of go on that road and
I hope so.
Don't put their head in the clouds too high.
Yeah.
Good deal.
You're not going to start off in the sweet box.
Well, hey, Natalie, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and give us a little bit of a background on what you do and how you got there. So definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity again to be a guest and be on the opposite side for a change. So thank you for having me.
Good deal. Well, at some point we'll get you back on the show, talk some more about some of your clients.
Sounds good.
All right, Natalie. Thank you very much. My name is Gregory Scott Reinen. Thanks for joining us again on Behind Sports. We'll see you next time.